This is what we're doing today. So you may be wondering, what the heck is this thing? Is it a game board? Is it a toy from Toys R Us? No, unfortunately, it's a hamster cage. So this is the All Living Things Tiny Tales XL Dinosaur with Activity Center. And if you didn't know, All Living Things is PetSmart's home brand, so that means they own All Living Things. So anything they produce is produced by PetSmart. So a year ago, I actually reviewed another one of their Tiny Tales enclosures, which didn't go so well. Cleo, you're literally the same size as this hamster cage. Isn't that hilarious? I'm sweating so bad right now. The wire popped out! Oh, there we go. We popped it back in. Yay! We also asked you guys to help us sign a petition that was trying to get PetSmart to make more humane, suitable enclosures for hamsters. It's not a lot to ask for to make a proper sized hamster cage. It's quite easy actually. It got around 30,000 signatures, I think. I'm not sure what it's at now, but it was sent off to PetSmart and absolute crickets. Oh, it's downpouring now, so that kind of sets the tone of the mood. So then about a year later, they came out with this bad boy. And is this anything that we asked for in that petition? No. One more thing I just want to point out is that when you're looking for a hamster cage, you're looking for something large, and in order to figure out if it's good size or not, you calculate floor space. And you can't generally calculate the inside measurements yourself because you don't own the cage yet, you're going to be buying it. So you generally will look at the measurements given by the company. This enclosure says that it is 37 inches long by 15.8 inches wide. That would give you a total of 584 square inches of floor space. And that would actually be a pretty decently sized enclosure marketed for hamsters in a pet store, because most pet store cages are not that large. So you're thinking, that's pretty good size. But we are going to measure the inside floor space once we get this puppy set up. The issue I have with this cage already is they're marketing it simply for entertainment and children. Your pet is not your entertainment. It is not some novelty toy. It's a living, breathing animal that requires certain needs, and it needs you to take care of it, and it's not your toy. PetSmart purely is marketing towards children because it's an easy audience to market to. It's an easy way to make money, especially when hamsters are considered cheap pets. When you make an enclosure that looks like this is very appealing to a child. Look at all this stuff. I'm really hoping this is going to be easier to set up than last year's cage. Oh, and my favorite thing in the world, the stickers. Because every hamster cage needs to come with stickers. Because clearly this is more of a Happy Mail than an actual animal's full-time living cage that they're gonna have to spend the rest of their life in. And before anybody goes ahead and says, well, it's made for dwarf hamsters, or you're supposed to connect them to the other cages. One, dwarf hamsters need just as much space as any other species, so don't diss a dwarf hamster like that. They don't deserve something smaller just because they are smaller. And two, connecting multiple of these enclosures still would not make it suitable, because these don't provide your hamster with the proper enrichment that they need, because they are just so small, and we will get to that once we set it up. This is so creepy. This is the head. Okay, here. Here's the main body, which I'm assuming is the main area, because where else are they gonna go? This is so small. This looks like it should be for like a Polly Pocket station or like a Littlest Pet Shop setup. Let me go here. I did not disrupt the instructions slightly, so we're gonna pretend that didn't happen. Okay, obviously it doesn't go. Oh, there we go. Oh my gosh, I don't want to break this. Oh. Sir, you don't even go there. You don't even go here. How is a hamster supposed to fit in that? Supposed to... Didn't even snap in. Okay, your turn. A George. We're gonna call him George. George the giraffe. Oops, he's not a giraffe. Last but not least, we gotta put our water bottle into addition. Okay, props to PetSmart for not making a wonky water bottle design. It's this close to the base of the cage. I don't know how they expect a hamster to comfortably drink from. We're done, George. We did it. Are you happy? First impression? I never knew something so big could be so small. You are so big to end up with no space. Like, what are you? Why? How would you clean you even? See, you have these access points of like the door, which makes life kind of difficult. There's just so many, this whole cage stresses me out, and I can only imagine how stressed a hamster would be having to live in this enclosure. Okay, so it does look like you can remove it, like all the pieces to clean, but it looks extremely difficult. There are so many pieces to take apart. This is just such a, it's so unnecessarily difficult to, if you want to fully actually clean this enclosure. So I don't really want to try and take it all apart. I'm gonna do my best. I don't actually know how to fully measure this. Where is the floor space, essentially? This does not count as floor space. These legs don't count as floor space. And essentially the end of this tail doesn't count for floor space. And there's also a bunch of factors to this. There is this slide taking up space and the wheel taking up space, and there's also a hole. And then I'm gonna give the cage the benefit of the doubt, and I'm just gonna measure from this tip to like about here, because the slide does take up a lot of that space, and then I guess I'll measure here to here, and then just assume it's going to be a little bit smaller than that. So first I'll do the width. Stop it! So we have a total of 11 inches. I'll go from like 11 by 15. This cage comes to a total of 165 square inches of floor space. That is nowhere near 580 square inches of floor space. George, I'm so sorry you're gonna get so much hate. You don't deserve it, but the company who made you, they don't have a brain. Just like you don't have a brain either. It's okay, boy. Okay, I'm gonna start with saying the most popular species purchased out of all of hamsters is the Syrian hamster, golden hamster, teddy bear hamster, whatever you want to call them. That is the most popular species people often purchase for a pet. This isn't exactly a robo-sized hamster. A Syrian hamster is a chunk of a hamster. Like, they're not small. There is nowhere, anywhere in this cage that a Syrian hamster could comfortably live and enjoy any of this stuff. I'm looking at like this part right here. I don't even know how a Syrian hamster would physically go up this. My hand can't even. A Syrian has to be, I don't even know how thick they are. They're thick boys. I don't know how they physically would not get stuck in this cage. Same with the legs. These legs have holes in them where they spiral down. I don't know what the purpose of it is. I guess they say they can sleep in it, but it's so small, I would be very concerned that a Syrian hamster would get stuck in this. The wheel. So once again, Syrians are the biggest species of hamster. They require at least a 10 to 12 inch wheel in order for their back to not curve. A hamster's back who curves is going to not be comfortable in their wheel, and they're not going to be able to actually properly use their wheel, because when your back is curved and you're trying to walk or run, that's very uncomfortable. It can cause back issues and pain to the hamster. So there's no actual way to put a 10-inch wheel or 12-inch wheel in this. And the wheel that they've provided let's measure it. So this essentially is a 6-inch wheel. That's not even half of the size for a Syrian. Do you know how uncomfortable it would be to try and run in this? And don't think this is suitable for dwarf hamsters either. Dwarf hamsters need at least an 8-inch wheel. Even though they're small, once again, even the slightest bend of their back can be very uncomfortable to them. So this wheel is garbo. Let's talk about the bedding base. The bedding base. The base for bedding. I don't know how to exactly measure this base because it slopes in. I'm also realizing there's the factor of there are holes in the legs. So if you were to fill bedding up to this purple line, you're gonna have bedding falling down here, which may affect how much bedding you can put. So I'm assuming you can only put up to that thing. You're gonna get maybe 4 inches of bedding. If you were going to put bedding up to the hole, which most likely all that's going to be able to fit. I feel like the deepest area is probably 3 inches of bedding. As you may know or may not know, hamsters are burrowers. They create complex burrows in the wild, and it's very important for them. It gives them a lot of enrichment to be able to burrow. And it's recommended that you have a section in your cage that has at least 10 inches because that gives them the proper amount to actually create some type of burrow. 2 inches and 4 inches doesn't allow you to burrow. That would be digging. So yeah, your hamster can dig in it, but that is not the same thing as burrowing. Oh, that is a easy way to escape. I'm realizing, so there's a hubcap, I'm gonna call it a hubcap, for you to be able to connect this cage to another cage. And it pops out, it has 5 holes in it. I can very much see a hamster figuring out how to pop this out if you're not connecting it to another cage and escaping. There's a lot of places I can see the hamster actually escaping. So the enrichments of a hamster. Hamsters need large enclosures because they have a lot of energy, they have a lot of needs that need to be provided. They have a lot of accessories that they need in order to be happy and enriched. This cage is not going to allow you to put anything. I don't know how you put any other accessories other than the ones it comes with in this enclosure. You could probably fit some chew sticks in this, that's about it. But a hamster, in order to be happy and enriched, they're going to need a proper sized wheel, in which you can't fit in this cage. They're going to need some accessories like an actual hideout and different tubes. Not like these tubes, these are terribly sized, uncomfortable tubes for a poor hamster. Why has it got a spiky spike? Sir, what? How is a hamster actually supposed to fit through that? I do realize hamsters are good at fitting through things, but just because they can fit through something doesn't mean they should have to be forced to go through something, especially a hamster who has just pouched their cheeks full of seeds. Hamsters shouldn't have to force their face with full of food through a tiny hole, it can actually hurt them. Obviously, it can cause the food inside of their cheeks to poke them. It could cause a wound inside, which then could cause an abscess, which then leads you to the vet and costs you more money. Hamsters need a sand bath. I don't know where you're going to put a sand bath in here. A sand bath is important so that a hamster can have something to dig in and enrich itself because it's a different material, as well as it helps properly remove excess oil that they produce on their coat. There's no room for your hamster to do anything. I'm not seeing any perks. I'm not a hamster running up and down this part or these parts. That's not something a hamster does. So I fully do not want to put Lenny in this cage because I am very afraid he's going to get stuck in one of these compartments and freak out, and I'm going to have to try and figure out how to dismantle this whole thing, which would be even more stressful for him. So we're not going to do that. I do have this little plushie here. It's a very similar size to possibly a Syrian, a little bit more stubby, but it's quite a good representation. Oh my gosh, that looks so terrible. That's awful. This is the part that I'm like, what the heck? How would a Syrian hamster even? He's stuck. Oh gosh, a Syrian hamster would not be able to fully use this part. He's stuck. I jammed him up there. He doesn't even fit. Oh gosh. He's gonna get stuck again and I'm literally never gonna get him back. This is not a real hamster, honey. Fully bamboozled by this cage. I'm sorry, George. I'm sorry, I don't like you. Can we also talk about the price range of this cage? This cage in Canada costs a grand total of $150. If you know Lenny, my hamster's cage, I made that enclosure for $120. That enclosure has 1,152 square inches of floor space. This cage, $150, is 160 square inches of floor space. Another cage, a detolf. A detolf is $70 for 900 square inches of floor space. This is $150 for 160 square inches. A bin cage. A bin cage is $30 at most, and it has probably 500 to 600 square inches of floor space. This is $150 for 160 square inches of floor space. Sadie, this is not a real hamster. I know, you're so curious. So I really don't think anybody has any excuse to buy this enclosure. If you have the space to put this somewhere in your house, you have the space for a large cage. If you have the money to buy this cage, you have the money to buy a properly sized hamster cage. There is no excuses. I don't know what else to say about this enclosure. It is super tall, super cool looking, but your pet isn't a novelty decoration to display in your home so it looks nice. They aren't entertainment for you so that you can just watch them suffer and be funny to you. They're a living, breathing animal, and you are their caretaker. You are responsible for making sure they are met, all their needs are met. I don't like you, I'm sorry. I'm going to leave the petition that Strong Brew Hamstery created to stop PetSmart from making cages like this, because maybe the more signatures we get, maybe the more likely they are to actually respond and listen, because it doesn't hurt to sign a petition. I'm not excited to take this apart and try to fit it back to the, what are you doing? This is not safe. It says don't go in plastic bags, you will suffocate. Hopefully this video can help people not buy this enclosure. Hopefully it gives them an idea of what the heck this thing looks like and how a hamster would suffer in it. So I will see you in my next video. Bye! Wow, so pretty. Oh, hey, can you just hold on to this? Thanks. Go for a walk. Come on. do you want one? Wish me luck.